You're about to enjoy a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands.
Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the CEO Leading In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of CEO. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. So today I am here with Carrie Bobb from Carrie Bobb and Company.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Well, you actually have a couple of other companies that you're involved with, don't you?
I do.
Hello, Jenny, and then also Carrie Bobb Foundation.
I know. It's been a wild couple of years, but here we are, and I met you in the process. And
you are so busy. So tell me a little bit about those companies, just a short little intro to each one of them and what you do.
Yeah, so in my career of 20 years, I do retail leasing for commercial real estate. And just as a consumer and a mom and a woman, I love like the specialty retail brands. And so at Carrie Bobb Co, we do retail leasing and help shopping centers put together all these different storefronts of really cool brands. And then at Hello Jenny, it's a social media company for retail property owners. We do some brands as well and help people drive their revenue and just the customer interaction through social. And then the Carrie Bobb Foundation is new. We're about a year old. And it's an opportunity for businesses to be the hero on social issues. And our first campaign is Beat the Bill, where we are asking companies to remove sexual assault and rape from arbitration clauses in employment contracts. I know that's a mouthful, but I'm sure we'll get to that later. And step in and protect people. I mean, people are looking to businesses for purpose, and we want to help.
Love that. So we'll get back to that. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you share one project that you're most proud about that is Carrie Bobb and Company?
Yes. So One Paseo is like my gem that I point to, that I just love that project. And I worked on that from the ground up before they even put a shovel in the ground. And I love, one, the architecture and design is so, I mean, it just evokes emotion when you walk through it. And then we worked really hard to curate both national tenants, like the Shake Shacks and Dry Bar and things like that, with the really cool character local to San Diego tenants, like Vandervoort and Shopgood and things like that.
It's got a very cool vibe. And don't forget Salt and Straw. Everyone loves that.
That's right. What's your favorite flavor?
Oh my gosh, definitely the caramel ribbons. Oh my gosh. Is it salted caramel with caramel ribbons? Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's delicious. Yeah, a lot of fun. And they also have all those wonderful seasonal flavors too, which is really fun. I love that. Okay, so I want you to share a fun story from your childhood that maybe people don't know about you.
You know, I don't know if I have like one specific, like really funny story, but when I think about my childhood, I think of Hot Wheels. And there was this like dirt mound in the back of the apartment complex that we lived in when I was a kid. And in my mind, like even remembering, it was this massive mountain of dirt, which it probably wasn't, and I would ride my Hot Wheels down that thing over and over and over. And that was like, to me, the best thing in the world. So like when I think of fun memories from childhood. It's me and my Hot Wheels.
Well, then there you were, a little girl breaking barriers, because probably not too many of the girls in your neighborhood were playing with Hot Wheels.
Right, and like dragging the bike back up the mountain so you could like have the thrill of riding down.
So fun. Okay, so I'm going to give you a question.
Okay.
What one word do you think describes you best?
It's so hard because there's so much. We're all like so much. I would say curiosity, because I can weigh into like relentlessness or fierce or kind or compassionate, any of those, but it's really the curiosity that I think keeps me kind of going around a corner. Like, wait, what? And just kind of questioning, or like, well, what about this? And for better or for worse, I think that's kind of what's led me here.
Well, what's interesting is, back when I was a kid, my dad always had the same path. He always worked the same job, and different actual employers, but always the same job. And I think that curiosity is probably what has brought you to these different types of jobs. And share with me, what was your first job? A lot of people always look back and go, well, my first job, and by the way, mine, I was babysitting and all that, but my first legal job was at Jack in the Box, and I worked the drive-through because I was friendly. But tell me, what was your first job?
Well, we would have been friends, because my first job was at Dairy Queen, and I worked the drive-through.
That doesn't surprise me.
I was just telling my daughter this story. She's 8. And because we were in Arizona and we went through a Dairy Queen drive-through. And I was like, I remember working there, and we had a little piece of paper taped next to the drive-through window, and we had OOC written across the top for any customers who were out of control. We thought we were just the coolest people.
Oh my God.
Our customers.
Oh, that is fun. So you have just one daughter, or do you have more than one child?
So I have Charlie, who's 8, and then I have twin boys who are 6, and it is just a circus all day long at our house, but it's our circus.
So much fun. So much fun. They keep us young, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. So how do you measure success? What does that look like to you?
I don't think I'm a great person to ask for that, because I think I set really unrealistic expectations on myself. I don't ever feel like I've nailed it. And have you ever heard of the Enneagram personality test?
Oh, yes, actually I have, yes.
So I'm a 3, which are like these people who are always wanting to like do these great things, but the bar keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And you have this like feeling of like, I've got to constantly one up. So I don't have a great answer for that, because I'm constantly driving. And I think success to me would be being happy in all the different aspects of my life, because I tend to go really lopsided on work or making a difference. And so I have to be intentionally making sure that I'm putting time in other things, like with our family and our kids, because I can get so focused and like hours will go by and I don't know that I've been sitting there for hours, and that's not great all the time.
Well, 2 things about that. I think as women, we are probably our worst critics, because there is so much pressure from the outside to look a certain way, act a certain way, do certain things, and then also those gender roles. And so, for me, it's kind of hard when you're a mom to balance all of that, and wanting to make sure I'm one of those people that likes a home cooked meal. And for my kids, I always want to have the little special sandwiches for lunches and all of that. I always bought the cookie cutters because my daughter loved the flour sandwiches.
Oh, those are the best.
So, how do you balance all of that? Because it can be difficult. I think a lot of people really struggle with that. And I think that's an important thing to share. And mind you, for our listeners out there today, it's going to look different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be exactly the way that Carrie Bobb does it or Rebecca Jones does it, but it's going to be something that works for your life. And so, share with us some of the things that you do that help you balance that.
I don't feel like I'm good at it, to be honest. It's a constant struggle. Like I said, I never feel like I'm crushing it. I'm always going I have to consciously make sure that I'm present, because it's really easy to think about what you're not doing when you're doing something. Like when I'm at work thinking about, I need to be doing something with the kids, or when I'm with kids, I'm thinking about the stuff that's not getting done. And so that's a constant struggle. And so for that, honestly, like I hired a coach and I have a therapist. And I think that keeping ourselves centered is really, really important, because it's so easy to fall on one side of the spectrum or the other. But I would say that, and then meditating in the morning and making sure that, like for me, I read my Bible and I just try to keep my mind in a calm place, because to just run out of bed and just start running, it's easy to do, but then it doesn't help anything for me. It makes it more difficult. So those are the things that I do. I'm a big advocate for therapy and mental health. I think there's a lot of bad therapists out there. There's a lot of good therapists out there. It's not for everybody, but for me, that's something that I do consistently, like going to the dentist. And then exercising and trying to keep myself balanced helps me balance everything else.
I agree with all of those things. One of the things that I really struggle with is making the time and setting that time aside where I actually work out and get my physical activity, because it just, you go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I think even during the pandemic, it's even been more difficult, because you think, I'm going to sit down for this meeting on Zoom, and you just kind of forget about it. And, times, I don't know about you, but I struggle with my time management sometimes. And so I think being intentional is really important. I actually try to stop and I take deep breaths, because every now and again I forget to breathe. I'm going so fast. I just go, oh my gosh, I have to breathe now. So I love your answer on that. So, okay, you're a woman, you're a leader. What has been the most significant barrier, do you think, in your career?
Well, I mean, my life took a hard left turn. I didn't really experience, or I wasn't aware of it, of like the whole sexual harassment, all of that in the workplace. I really was not, whether it's self-aware or just aware in general of what happens to other people. And then my world was turned upside down, and I experienced it in a really horrific way at a company event, at an industry event. I was 39 years old. I had my 3 kids, and was at a white tablecloth dinner and was drugged and raped by an executive at a Fortune 200 company where I worked. And I just didn't think that kind of stuff would happen to me at that point in my life. I thought that was kind of reserved for sorority girls who were in the back alley at 2 a.m. behind a bar, drunk. And so kind of got kicked in the teeth that when that all happened. I walked away from my business, and I would say that was definitely one of the hash marks of my life. When you look back at the timeline of your life, we all have those marks or those defining moments in the timeline of our life. And so that was a really dark, lonely place. A lot of good has come out of it. We're at the good part now, and I'm really grateful for that. But it's a barrier for a lot of people. And I was not aware of it until something like that happened to me.
And it happens a lot, Carrie. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think as a woman, I mean, we always think, am I the only one? Because it's happened to me as well. And back, I was pretty young when it happened a couple of times. And I didn't have the courage that you have. And I'm so grateful that you have taken this, taken this in your life and taken it from, I even said this to you before, beauty from the ashes, because what's happening now is really beautiful and courageous. And there are a lot of young women that will follow in your path because you did it and you talked about it. So, and we'll talk about kind of what you're doing right now with that. But so probably the resistance as being a woman with men in your industry, that probably was something that you've experienced, I would assume, just based on everything that happened.
Yeah, and what happens when something like that happens in the workplace, there's a whole other psychological damage that happens because you're navigating liability in a company and all of this kind of stuff. And so there's all sorts of barriers there too. And what happens after an incident is worse than the incident itself. And it continues to surprise me when people say that it's happened to them, because I still can't believe how prevalent it is. And I'm getting daily messages from people, not in a victim sense, which is really amazing. I wouldn't have expected that, but people want to make it better. And they want to take what was the worst thing that ever happened to them and flip the script and use it as something to reap something beautiful for them or for somebody else. And so, even when you had shared your story with me, it baffles me every time, because you look at somebody like you and you're like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? And we have these preconceived notions of what a rape victim looks like. It's happening to men, it's happening to women, it's happening to doctors, teachers, everybody. And to me, that was like the biggest paradigm shift of how I see things happening. I also see where we're at today, where men in the workplace, there's a lot of good men, and they're making a difference, and they're stepping up for their daughters, and they're helping. We're not, the world's not perfect. There's plenty of women that are impacting it for the negative, right? And so it's just finding good people to step in and be a hero for others. And one thing that I've noticed too is those people who have a story, whether they share their story or not, their voice is the most impactful voice. And it doesn't matter if they're sharing their story or not. Just by being passionate about helping people and moving the ball down the field, they can do it in ways other people can't. And that's been really cool to see too.
Well, and so you did mention that, I do have a story as well. I look at it, and, this isn't always how I felt, because there was a lot of shame associated with that. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I think young women need to hear is there's no shame in what happened to you, because it wasn't your fault. No one deserves or should be forced to do anything against their will. But I think having the mindset of becoming a survivor versus an actual victim, I think that's where the shift happens, because, and your voice is huge, and I think I want to jump right to, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because it's so big and it's so exciting and out of your wheelhouse, but you started the Carrie Bobb Foundation, and I'd like you to tell our listeners, what are you doing and how is this going to impact others? Because I think it's very remarkable, and I'm so proud of you, and I really want everyone to hear this message.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I would love to say I had this big master plan after I got hurt, but I really didn't. I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to survive, really. And I started the Carrie Bobb Foundation not even knowing what it was going to be. And that's why it's called the Carrie Bobb Foundation, because I didn't have a name and I didn't know what it was going to do. But I just felt like I was going to do something with it. I didn't know what it would be. So after I got hurt and reported it, I had been with my company for 16 years. I was a top producer. I was attending this event where I was receiving a national award for character and creativity and all these things. I was the darling of retail. And then this happened, and I felt very disposable and erased overnight. We don't want to talk about, nope, you're not here. He's not here. Everything's erased. And I learned I was making really good money at the time, so I had the ability to assess the playing field and kind of understand what was happening. And it took me a long time. I took 12 months to negotiate, and so which most victims don't have time or resources like that. And so I knew that I was fortunate, one of the lucky ones, as awful as that sounds, I was. And so it took me a while to understand what we were doing here. And it was really my sister she's a Marine and an attorney and just a badass. And she was like, look, I don't know why you're here. We're going to know it when we see it. This cannot be about money. If you make it about money, you lose. They're $1 billion company. You will never win. We have to make it about something other than money. We're going to know it when we see it. So I was hurt May of 2018. In November of 2018, Google had an international worldwide walkout where 20,000 employees walked off the job because of arbitration in their employment contracts. Because when you sign your employment contract and it has an arbitration clause in it, you're waiving your right to sue your employer in court, and you are agreeing to confidentiality. The reason that's a problem when it comes to sexual assault and rape is it shields the predator because everything is confidential. So in my case, I believe there could have been other instances, other people that he hurt. I cannot find them. Everything is confidential, if there were. And then the confidentiality also silences the victims. So when you sign your employment contract to go to work, you're waiving your right. You're waving away your voice before something awful happens.
And I think a lot of that power going from victim to a survivor is in that of feeling like there's some sort of penalty or something that happens. So, okay, sorry to pop in, but I really wanted to highlight that.
No, anytime. You're right. So anyway, so this worldwide walkout happens, and the next day, Facebook changes their policy and Lyft changed their policy. Uber changes their policy within 24 hours. And my sister calls me and she goes, this is it. I told you we were going to know it when we see it. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, we're going to use your story. You need to get your voice back. Don't worry about money. We need to get your voice back. And we're going to use your story and your case to change the law. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Anyway, so we did. I did not take money for confidentiality. I negotiated the right to tell my story. I got my voice back. And then over the summer of 2019, we lobbied different members of Congress to remove sexual assault and rape from arbitration clauses in employment contracts. It turns out 60 million Americans have this in their employment contracts, so it's kind of a big deal. And in October, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko from Arizona and Congresswoman Karen Bass, it's a bipartisan bill, introduced Carrie's Law to the House of Representatives. And that I still get choked up. I
have chills right now. This is unbelievable. Well, not unbelievable, but
it is.
It's
a miracle. It really is.
It really is. And that your sister actually kind of predicted that something would happen to know how that path would end up. That is unbelievable. And, I have to tell you, Carrie, I'm just really, really proud of you because, again,
thank you.
If you were not courageous enough to share the story, if you were not courageous enough to be patient, and really patience is a big part of all of this. And, in leadership, patience is a huge virtue because you never know what your path is going to be. And I can see the passion in your face. But you are literally changing the world right now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but you know what? No one else could have done it without the circumstances that ended up unfolding. And yes, it was horrific, and I'm very sorry that you were hurt. So many women are hurt, though, and many of us don't feel like we have a voice. So you are bringing a voice to the voiceless and doing something that no one that hadn't been through something like the way that you had would be able to do because you bring authority to that. And I'm just very, very proud of you.
Thank you. Our voices matter.
They do. And as a mom, I mean, I have a 20-year-old daughter. You have an 8-year-old daughter. So, right? 8,
yep.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And so even, with our sons, I mean, being able to impact the world and being able to influence others to support these types of initiatives are very important. But again, it doesn't start without you because Carrie's Law. And tell me, where is that right now? Tell me what people can do to help with this cause.
It's just been unreal. So the bill's been introduced. It hasn't been passed. It's got to go through the whole thing, which could take a long time. And so the Carrie Bobb Foundation, what it's become, now it kind of was like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, is we are encouraging companies to change their policy prior to the bill passing. So we've launched a campaign called Beat the Bill, and we're asking companies, we're saying, you're not intentionally including rape in your employment contract, right? Because it's just the word tort. You don't have to have sexual assault and rape in the arbitration clause. It can just say tort, which means any wrongful act. The company can harm you in any way, and you have no recourse. And so we're just saying to companies, you're not including rape, right? It's a very tough question to answer if you are.
Right, yes.
And so we've had some really great companies endorse the bill. Intel was the first one, and then Microsoft, Uber, Allstate. We've got just under 100 other small businesses, large and small, supporting us. And you can feel this movement happening. Like even just recently in the last couple of weeks, more and more people are understanding that we're saying businesses can be heroes too. Because by being vulnerable and changing the clause in your contract, you're right, it protects the company 100%. We're asking companies to show some vulnerability, transparency, saying we don't have a rape culture, we don't hire rapists, don't worry. And we're getting the voices back for their employees. And so it's telling their employees, we care more about you than a clause in a contract. And so it's this beautiful opportunity for companies to step into the issue and be the hero. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, 75% of consumers think that CEOs should take the lead on an issue rather than waiting for government to impose it.
Agreed. Yes.
So, yes.
Yes.
So
agreed.
here we
Yes.
are, companies.
Awesome.
This is not a hard ask. Are you including rape or are you not? And for those who aren't, we want to celebrate you and shine a spotlight on them and give them all the props because they are shifting culture. And then our hope is the bill is secondary. We definitely need it because there's going to be companies that don't. But we hope that companies tip the issue prior to the bill passing.
So to our listeners out there, you're doing this in your spare time, and then you're also working. Tell me some of the projects that are coming up that you're excited about. What's going on in your world, Carrie?
Yeah, so we are working with IQHQ on RAD in downtown San Diego. It's the largest waterfront mixed-use development in the state of California. And it's primarily a life science project with a retail component that we're curating, and it's going to be really, really cool right on the water across from the Midway downtown. So we love that. And then at Hello Jenny, we are really close to announcing quite a few properties that we're working on that are across the country, coast to coast, and it's changing the way retail leasing is done in a really cool way. It's not taking the role of the broker. It's just another seat at the table to help create a sales funnel through social. Retailers are driving revenue through social. Brick and mortar landlords might as well too. And, it's funny. It all ties together, right? Like the social and the retail leasing and then even the foundation, like purpose is so important to consumers and brands. Like never before in history has a brand's purpose. And when I say brand, it could be a personal brand, it could be a company brand. Never before has a brand's purpose been so entwined with the brand's identity. People want to see that we stand for something as people and as businesses. And so often, just in the course of business, people will bring it up or they'll talk about things that they're doing and we support them. And so that's when we call it flow a lot. My sister and I talk about it like that. That's when we are in flow, is when you can do all of these things and everything's kind of going in the right direction. What's really hard to manage in life is when you're trying to run different lanes and do it separately and keep all these plates spinning, and it's really unmanageable. But when you can accomplish a lot of big things in the same lane and work with people like you on multiple different things, like you and I have talked about every single one of those things, right?
Yeah.
Commercial real estate development, social media, and making an impact. And with one person,
right?
It's really fun.
It's how it all converges together. It's very exciting and this Hello Jenny, when did you start that again?
So we've been doing social for landlords for about 18 months at Carrie Bobb Co. And then I crossed paths over social with Jay Ciano in Manhattan, and he's he's got a business similar to Carrie Bobb Co. It's larger in Long Island. And so we came together and formed Hello Jenny in January. We just launched in January, and we're working with some of the biggest, coolest retail landlords across the country. It's really fun.
During COVID, might I add?
That's which
exciting.
is neat.
Yeah, and I would say that right now is the time where people are really pivoting. And I know we use that word a lot, but also adapting, right? It's you're taking what's happening today and you're just moving your path a little bit.
Right.
A lot of times when I'm talking to young people and, how do we get people to try new things? I tell them all the time, listen, try something new. It may be something that's very uncomfortable. Obviously, don't do anything that's, scary into the fact that you're going to hurt yourself. But try things that are very difficult for you that maybe you think you might not be good at, because you need to find your passion. And I can tell you're very passionate about your work. Tell me, do you feel like you're always working, or sometimes do you feel like I'm so darn lucky I get to do this because it's fun for me and I'm making a difference and I'm impacting different things and really enriching people's lives? Tell me.
The latter for sure.
Yeah.
I pinch myself that I get to do this, but it's been really hard. And even with the bill and the foundation, there was so much pain and so much where you're you're being buried alive, it feels like, and you're crawling out of this hole. But if you do the work, both spiritually, mentally, emotionally, with your career, all of that, if you can do the work, it's so much better. And I feel like my kids and my husband are entwined in all of it too. We do these photo shoots and my kids will jump in it and they see how we're building a business and they get to meet amazing people like you. And that part is where I just go, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky.
Definitely. And, another thing that I like to talk about too is sacrifice. There are a lot of people that don't understand, to get to a certain level, you really have a lot of sacrifice. And, sometimes, I try not to be too hard on myself. As a mom, there have been times where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of not doing very well this week because I'm getting a lot of to-go food this week, or, whatever. And I love to cook. So, how do you, again, not to belabor the point of balance, but are you hard on yourself? Because it sounds to me like you might be. And sometimes we really need to give ourselves some grace to get through these things. But, talking to people and sharing your journey, I think, is really important. And so I want to ask you, what do you think your journey is going to do right now? Where do you think you're going? What's next for you?
Oh, well, my hopes are that we can create some movement on this issue in corporations and businesses across the country, to where we gain so much momentum this year that businesses just start tipping like dominoes on the issue. And then I think Beat the Bill could be another bill. We could take on another issue, and we've had people approach us about it. And I don't know, I think you could go a lot of different ways. As far as the balance goes, I'm very transparent with my kids. They don't know everything that happened, but I would talk to them like I would. I went to DC many, many times in 2019, where I would leave my family for a few days. And I told them, I was like, look, somebody hurt me and we stand up to bullies in our family, and nobody can stand up to this bully but me. And then after a little bit of time, it was like, look, you guys, I found out that there's a lot of bullies and there's a lot of people being hurt, and we stand up even when we see other people being hurt. And so we talk about stuff like that, where when they look back, I hope they know that I included them in the journey. And then today's bananas. There's so much stuff going on today. But my daughter has hip hop dance at 4:00. And so when I leave here, I'm going to go pick up Charlie, and we're going to go to hip hop and get a Starbucks on the way home. And everything will be fine. And if stuff falls through the cracks, it happens. And
give yourself grace. And you are totally changing the world. I love that. And, I think the bullying is timely because there's been a lot of that recently. And when you look at just what's going on in our country, and I keep telling people, you've got to love people more. You've got to take the time to encourage them and, bring people together and be unified. And, there's that whole, saying, be the change you wish to see in all of the world.
Yeah.
I think that is so timely right now and so important for us to teach our young people. And you know what? Not even just our young people, honestly, being that change and being that voice for people to say, hey, a gentle reminder, of course, in a loving way. Hey, you can do things, but we've got to do it together because no one can work as an island. And so in closing, I have a question for you. What advice would you give the next generation of female leaders?
I would say in part of my journey, I would walk every day and I'd go on long walks. And it was when I was hurt and mad. There's still parts of me that are mad for sure. But I can remember this one walk very vividly where I was like, okay, I'm going to DC and I'm going to lobby. But I was angry. I was so mad. And on my walk, I thought, does it matter if I do good works, but I'm angry? And the conclusion that I came to was yes, it matters. I have to be able to let that go because I don't want to be an angry person. And it is a journey. It's hard. But I would say when we are hurt, we can flip the script and make a difference, but we can't come at people with daggers. To your point of we have to love each other more. Everybody's been hurt, maybe not to the same extent as others, but we need to be relentless and gracious at the same time. I mean, I think some of the Me Too movement kind of went off the rails a little bit. Like I understand what they were trying to do, but I think a lot of times people are defensive and it comes across a certain way. And I think it's okay to be angry. I feel like I've got to be really delicate with it. But our heart matters more than any works that we do. Like if this bill got introduced, but I'm still holding on to anger and bitterness, I haven't gained anything. And so how we do the things we want to do matters. So that would be my advice.
Wow, that is excellent advice because it's true. Channeling that anger and to love and being a positive influence is the best advice you could ever give anyone. Carrie, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for being here today. And you keep changing the world. I'm really, really proud of you.
Well, you are too. Thank you so much for having me. This has been incredible.
Thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learned how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with CEO host Rebecca Jones.
You have been listening to a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands. Find more stories at cloudcast.us.